candidates are vying to be the mayor of Wheeling, but only one can take the seat. The ballot features some faces familiar to council and others running for the first time. Chad Thalman has served as vice mayor of Wheeling since 2016 and now looks to take the next step as mayor with a focus on continued growth in the friendly city. Rosemary Ketchum was elected to city council in 2020, and she says local issues like housing, infrastructure, and population retention will be at the forefront if elected. Carpenter is a former industrial worker who is making his first run at a political seat in the friendly city. Beth Hinebaugh is a business and property owner in Wheeling. Her goal is to help small businesses and create more family support. Also in the running is Denny McGruder, who was the longtime executive director of West Banco Arena and the Capitol Theater. He believes he has the tools and time for the job. The sixth name on the ballot is J.T. Thomas. Thomas is a generational Wheeling resident and business owner who wants to update infrastructure and support law enforcement. Before you vote, you'll hear from each candidate on the issues that impact you, starting right now on Fox 9.
We're live at the White Palace in Wheeling Park. Good evening. I'm Mark Hyman, tonight's moderator. Thank you at home for joining us. We have this mayoral forum that's going to take place this evening, and it's sponsored by the Wheeling Area Chamber of Commerce. You met the candidates in the opening video. Tonight's forum will highlight the differences in the candidates' platforms and their political philosophies. There will be no trick or gotcha questions, no showboating by the moderator. This is not cable TV news. The podiums at which the candidates are standing and the order in which they deliver their opening and closing remarks was determined earlier by the campaign's drawing cards. The candidates agreed upon tonight's format. Jamie and I will not use their first names. We will use titles agreed upon with the candidates. WTOV main anchor Jamie Baker will be asking questions. My job is to keep us on schedule and to enforce the rules. Each candidate has 2 minutes to answer. I would restate that. Each candidate has 2 minutes for their opening and closing statements. Each candidate has 60 seconds to respond to a question. They each have 4 30-second rebuttals they may use at their discretion to either rebut an opponent's answer or to extend their own remarks. However, all rebuttals must be used prior to closing statements. As moderator, I reserve the right to ask a follow-up question if, in my judgment, it is needed to clarify an answer. We have a live audience comprised of supporters of all candidates and some undecided voters. I've asked the audience to refrain from any reaction during the forum, as this only takes time away from the candidates. However, there are 2 exceptions. At the conclusion of the forum and right now, when we welcome the candidates. Candidates, we have a lot to cover and not a whole lot of time. Let's get started. Earlier, the campaigns drew cards to determine the order of opening remarks. You each have 2 minutes. Vice Mayor, you're first.
In 2016, Wheeling was considered beyond repair by many. It was believed our best days were behind us, and that decline was our only future. But under the leadership of Wheeling City Council, we've helped turn that around. And today, our city's making a comeback. And instead of hearing people talk about our past or what we've lost as a city, I now hear people talking about our future and what's happening today. And this change in attitude didn't happen by chance. It was a result of hard work, having a plan, and strong leadership. But leading a city isn't about taking over when it's easy. It's about being here when it's hard. And we've had some hard moments and tough votes in the last 8 years. And while I think we're on the right path now, there's going to be hard decisions and tough votes in the next 4 years. And I believe I have the experience and the track record to handle that challenge as mayor, just as I've handled it the last 8 years as vice mayor. In the last 8 years, we've made significant upgrades to our infrastructure, revitalized our parks, enhanced public safety, even earning Wheeling national recognition in 2023 when Fortune magazine named Wheeling one of the best places to live and raise a family. And while we focused on improving our neighborhoods and making Wheeling a place where people want to live and call home, we still have more work to do. We're at a critical point, and we need a mayor who not only knows the job, but knows this community and understands business. I was born and raised here. I'm the vice president of a local company that's been serving this community since 1927. Continue the comeback isn't just a slogan for me. It's a commitment to you. Wheeling needs a mayor with a proven track record and deep community ties. Someone who doesn't just talk about problems, but somebody who has consistently been part of the solutions. So thank you for the opportunity to serve you. Let's keep moving forward, not with untested promises, but with proven results and a clear vision for all of Wheeling.
Mr. Carpenter.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming. And especially thanks to Channel 9 and the Wheeling Area Chamber of Commerce for this opportunity to talk to you about who's going to be the next mayor of Wheeling. I'm running for mayor, first of all, because I want to make Wheeling paved again. Also, I think it's time to recognize the reality that we are a small town, and we could be a very nice small town, a good place to live, and a good place to do business. If you're a member of the Chamber of Commerce and you're operating a business here, if you're thriving and surviving, there's not much I can tell you. And should I be elected, I will ask you to come back to one of your meetings where I can listen to you and get your ideas and what you think the city could do for you. And when it comes to economic development, I don't believe in any race to the bottom where you try to outbid every other distressed city to bribe developers and business operators to come here. I think we've seen a major disaster in Wheeling at the McGruder Hotel. And I'm not going to say that I'm not going to criticize the judgments that were made, but I think it's bad policy. And I think it's detrimental to subsidize someone to come here and compete with you in a business that you're already running. I don't think it's fair. I think what Wheeling should be is a low-cost, easy place, a good place to live and do business. And when I talk about that, I believe you're already under a 1% deficit to businesses that aren't in Wheeling because in Wheeling to sell something, you have to collect an extra 1% sales tax. Besides that, if you have a job here or you have a...
Mr. McGruder.
Thank you.
Good evening. First, let me thank the Chamber and WTOV 9, most importantly, the audience, both here and watching us online tonight. I want to tell you a little bit about myself, my family, my career, and why I'm running for mayor. My wife, Barb, and I are lifetime residents of Wheeling. We've been married for 36 years. I have 3 adult children, 9 grandchildren. So I have a lot at stake in this particular race. In terms of career, several years ago, I worked for a local CPA firm specializing in municipal audits and municipal accounting. After that, I was the comptroller business manager for the Marshall County Board of Education. After that, I had a chance to have a dream job where I got to be the executive director of West Bank Arena and Capitol Theater. In those positions, I learned an awful lot. Number one, I not only constructed budgets, I administered them and made sure that we in performance. Number two, I hired, trained, managed, and worked with staff and employees for many, many years. I've negotiated many contracts, union labor contracts, construction contracts, employee contracts, contracts with professional sports teams such as the Nailers. I've done some of those things. I've had a chance to work extensively with the media. That was part of my job. I think that's an important role of the mayor. The other thing I guess I would say to you is that I have had a chance, because of my positions, to serve on national committees and leadership on national committees, both in public education, when I worked for the school board, and then with arenas, stadiums, and big theaters. I've been blessed because I've always been surrounded by people who made me look better than I was. It's all about leadership, folks. I was blessed to have that, to have those people around me, and I think that's the primary job of the mayor. The mayor has to be the leader. By themselves, they could do nothing. They have one vote. So I would ask for you, please, to consider electing me your leader. Thank you.
Mr. Thomas.
Thank you. And thank you to the Area Chamber of Commerce and RED and WTOV 9, those of you in attendance and those of you watching at home. I'm J.T. Thomas, and I'm a son of this city. I was born here, raised here, educated here. I embarked on 2 careers here, and I chose to raise my own family here. In 1990, I graduated from Wheeling Central Catholic High School, and in 94 and 96, I graduated from Wheeling Jesuit University First, with a Bachelor of Science and an emphasis in physics, and second, with a Master's in Physical Therapy. I was immediately hired by Wheeling Hospital, now WVU Wheeling Hospital, WVU Medicine Wheeling Hospital, where I resided for 27 years, 25 of which I headed the Sports Physical Therapy Department, taking care of most of you and your families. I headed the concussion testing program, IMPACT, which takes care of the brains of our young children. I was also seen on the sidelines, volunteering my time in a medical capacity for Wheeling Park High School and Wheeling Central High School. In the last 3 years, I've been a member as a commercial insurance agent of Glessner, Horton, and Andrews Insurance, one of the most successful insurance agencies in the region. And over the past 3 months, a lot of people have asked me if I'm crazy, and I just may be. But they've also asked me, why am I doing this? Why do I want to do this? And the reasons are many. First and foremost, my wife and I have degrees in the medical field and could have gone anywhere to start our careers and raise our family. But we chose here because we love it here and because we think this is a great place to raise a family. And we haven't regretted that decision for one day. As a matter of fact, now we have time to give back to our community. Now that our kids are grown and independent, I mean, at least as independent as kids can be, we have time to give back to this position that we feel is necessary. And that is why I want to help you and lead this city to prosperity.
Counselor?
Hey folks, thank you so much for being here. My name is Rosemary Ketchum, and I have served the city of Wheeling in the capacity of council member representing Ward 3 for the past 4 years. Ward 3 makes up East Wheeling, South Wheeling, Center Wheeling, and Mozart, some of the coolest and greatest neighborhoods in our city, but these neighborhoods have experienced some of the most difficult and challenging issues to date. We're talking about blight, we're talking about historic preservation, homelessness, economic development, small business, all issues these past 4 years I have focused on. In addition to these 4 years, I have served in public service capacity here in the city of Wheeling for the past 15 years. First, as the Associate Director of a mental health facility, working directly with our most vulnerable community members. Next, working with elected officials across the state of West Virginia, teaching them how to govern. I have 4 years of governing experience, 15 years of public service experience, focused on some of the most important issues. And I wouldn't be running for mayor of the city of Wheeling if I didn't truly believe that we had the opportunity to be the greatest city, not just in the state of West Virginia, but in the United States, to tackle issues like infrastructure, economic development, small business, homelessness, which is one of the biggest issues that we're facing right now. Additionally, focusing on small business. I represent our city's largest small business district there in Center Market, and I love those folks. That is the kind of city that we want to build, and as mayor, that is the leadership that I bring to this position.
Ms. Hinebaugh?
Hi, thank you so much for coming tonight. I am a business owner. I am a mom. I'm a mother of 8, a grandmother of 13, which clearly shows that I have a huge investment in the city. I am really fed up with how things have been in our city for a long time, and I feel that it is time to make some changes. And I also feel like I am the woman to make those changes. I'm tired of hearing the same things over and over again from our politicians. And I feel that it's time for somebody who is not a politician to jump in and to try to make those changes. I am the most invested candidate business-wise, property-wise, public safety-wise, and family-wise. I have a proven track record for bringing people together and for solving complex problems and achieving results. My experience in business, law enforcement, community development, advocacy, and leadership uniquely position me to lead this city into a brighter future. I believe in the potential of Wheeling. We have a great city, and we need to bring that potential to light. By working together, I feel that we can overcome the challenges that we've had in the past and seize the opportunities and build a future for us all. A better place for us to live, to work, and to raise a family. With having 8 children and 13 grandchildren, I want to see a community where my children will want to stay here and where their children want to stay here and raise their families. I've had so many families who have come to me and said that that is one of the biggest challenges that they're facing right now, is that their children are leaving. And we need to try to find a way to stop that from happening. If you elect me to be your mayor, I will work tirelessly to try to make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. We're going to step aside for just a few moments. When we come back, Jamie Baker will start her Q&A.
When the dust cleared, Lexi was gone. These kids are my world.
He lied right to my face.
It's better to beg for forgiveness than to ask for permission.
We don't want a hostage situation to pop up.
Put the gun down. What happens next is on you.
Tonight at 9 on Fox 9.
If these people want you dead, they're gonna kill your family.
I don't know what to do anymore.
Find their weakness.
Tonight at 8 on Fox 9.
Wheeling needs a mayor we can rely on. Denny McGruder will create an economic growth environment, attract new business. McGruder will champion local businesses, commit to public safety, and enhance public services. Vote Denny McGruder, Wheeling Mayor.
My employees are my greatest asset. I want to make sure that they have the health coverage they need, which is why I joined the Wheeling Chamber. My membership gives me access to group rate coverage through the health plan. The rates are based on my company's demographics. I can get the best group rate and a plan that meets our specific needs. Join the Wheeling Chamber today and take advantage of group rates. There's savings in numbers.
I've been involved with the YWCA for over 15 years. My board membership and active involvement at the YWCA opened my eyes to the needs in the community. Women and children who are victims of domestic violence have a safe haven at the YWCA. Women needing a second chance will gain confidence to change their lives. Please join me in supporting the YWCA so that they may continue to empower women and children.
My employees are my greatest asset. I want to make sure that they have the health coverage they need, which is why I joined the Wheeling Chamber. My membership gives me access to group rate coverage through the health plan. The rates are based on my company's demographics. I can get the best group rate and a plan that meets our specific needs. Join the Wheeling Chamber today and take advantage of group rates. There's savings in numbers.
Wheeling needs a mayor we can rely on. Denny McGruder will create an economic growth environment, attract new business. McGruder will champion local businesses, commit to public safety, and enhance public services. Vote Denny McGruder, Wheeling Mayor.
Welcome back to the White Palace, to this mayoral forum. We're going to start off the Q&A. Over to you, Jamie Baker.
Thank you, Mark. Mr. Thomas, we'll start with you. What is the single greatest challenge facing Wheeling?
Listen, there are a lot of challenges facing Wheeling. I think the greatest challenge is economic growth and how we are going to handle that. I think we have to take the opportunity that's given to us. The state's largest employer is about to invest $80 million in our city. We cannot rest. We have to be ready. We have to prepare. This is our time. You're looking for a magic bean. This is the magic bean. These people, this is going to be hundreds of jobs and hundreds of visitors. So this is the time that we need to act. These people are going to need places to live, places to shop, places to eat, and places to recreate. So we need to act. We need to collaborate with our county commission and make sure we get this right. We need to collaborate with RED. We need to collaborate with our Chamber of Commerce. If we snooze on this, we're going to lose. We have to act now, and it's very, very important.
Mr. McGruder, same question.
The single biggest problem, in my opinion, is leadership and team building. Because when we do that, we can solve the problems. I don't know that you can solve homelessness, but if we work together, if we all come together for a similar mission, we can improve that situation. With leadership and team building, you can work on economic development. We bring those parties to the table. It's true that we need to build collaboration. Economic development comes when the local organization is working with the state organization and we're setting the table. But I do think we need leadership. We need somebody that can bring the various groups together, and we can all have common goals, and we can make our situations much better with that.
Ms. Hinebaugh?
I believe that business development is one of our biggest challenges. We need to focus on implementing policies that can help to create more businesses in our community, but also focusing on the current businesses that we have. Small businesses are the backbone of our communities. We need to focus on helping our small businesses to grow, and I believe that will also help our community grow. We need to improve are standing with the businesses as well and become more business friendly.
Counselor?
I think the greatest challenge, but also the greatest opportunity facing the city of Wheeling today is economic development. But it isn't enough to just say we need to focus on economic development or we need to focus on small business. The way that I see it, economic development exists in three prongs. It is about workforce, it is about housing, and it is about commercial building stock. I currently serve on our workforce development board at a statewide level representing the city of Wheeling, discovering opportunities to increase workforce development opportunities here in the city of Wheeling. I've also worked tirelessly with our small businesses in order to unlock commercial development in our city. When I talk to people who want to move their business from St. Clairsville or from Moundsville or from Columbus to the city of Wheeling, they say, show me your building stock. Where is it? That's one of the most important things. And then housing. I represent Ward 3, which has seen some of the most consistent and frequent housing development in the past 30 years in the city of Wheeling, and housing is one of the most important things that we can focus on. So those three prongs are key to focusing on economic development.
Vice Mayor?
Yeah, I believe our biggest challenges are old infrastructure and population loss. Over the last several years, we've invested in replacing our infrastructure. We've replaced water and sewer lines. We're taking on a major project in downtown Wheeling, a streetscape project. To reverse population loss and slow down that decline, we've made quality of life issues a priority. We have paved more streets and alleys in the city in the last 8 years than were paved in the previous 20 years. We've invested in recreation. We've invested in almost every single park and playground in the city, whether it be playground equipment, new upgrades to the baseball fields, adding dog parks, adding splash pads. We have tried to make Wheeling a city where people want to live, where people want to move to and people don't want to move away from. We've invested in paving our Heritage Trail. We've invested in childcare, whether it be King's Daughters, Bishop Cummings' new childcare facility that might be coming to North Wheeling, or a new childcare center in downtown Wheeling. We have tried to make Wheeling a place where people want to live and families want to stay.
Mr. Carpenter?
I agree with the other candidates that economic development here is very important. Being able to get a job and make a good living is what will make Wheeling better than it is. However, as I've stated, I don't believe in this race to the bottom where you're bidding against every other distressed town to bribe someone to come here. I think the great selling point of Wheeling, and if the mayor is an economic ambassador, and I think he should be, the great selling point of Wheeling that needs to be promoted by the city, by the county, by the region, by the state, is that we are here because the river was always here. Then came the National Road, then came the railroad. Our location, if you're standing here looking to the east, to your right is the southeast, to your left is the northeast, and behind you is the whole Midwest. There's no better location in the United States.
Your time's expired. For the next question, we'll start with you, Mr. McGruder.
Mr. McGruder, many downtown businesses have voiced frustrations about the ongoing streetscape project affecting their bottom lines, some saying they've lost 50% of their business in the last year. What will you do to try to help some of these spots recover from that loss as this project continues?
Well, Jamie, the one thing I would do is certainly have a seat at the table. I think one of the things that happened is this thing came upon us. We all know the streetscape was a very necessary project. It had to happen. Our city needs it. But unfortunately, we didn't have a seat at the table early enough during the planning phase. We can't close two of our major arteries downtown at the same time. That would not have happened in other major cities across West Virginia. So I think we have to have a seat at the table. We've got to work with the businesses, and I think the big thing is communication. Some meetings up front in advance, letting them know exactly what's going to happen, how we can adjust to it. And I know the city has offered some programs such as B&O abatement and some other things. But we've got to help those businesses. We've got to champion them. We've got to make sure that we ourselves visit those businesses. We've got to make sure this doesn't happen again.
Ms. Hinebaugh?
I believe that what we're doing with the city, the streetscape is going to look beautiful when it's done. However, the challenges that everybody has faced with it has been difficult. We need to help the businesses by offering incentives to them. I know we've already tried to offer some, but we're going to see businesses closing if we can't get the people downtown. There are places for people to park. There are places for people to try to get there, to try to go to the businesses. However, people don't want to do it right now while all of that is going on. They feel like it's a maze and it's just too difficult to go through. Yes, we have done basically 40 or so years worth of projects all at once. And it will be good for our city. However, if we don't support our businesses and get downtown to help them to stay open, then we're not going to have the businesses there.
Counselor?
Hinebaugh is absolutely right, Ms. Hinebaugh. I had a voter tell me just the other day, Wheeling is experiencing 40 years worth of development in 8 months. And that was always going to be frustrating. It was always going to be complex, but it did not have to be the way it is right now. I think that as mayor, developing stronger relationships with our state and national partners can help ease some of the issues that we've been experiencing. The workers on the street, if you spend any time downtown, they're incredible. If you ask them what the project looks like, they'll tell you. But as a city, we need to take a forward leadership approach in order to make sure that our businesses feel supported. A couple of ways that we've been able to do that include fee and tax relief for downtown businesses. I've also spearheaded a convening of local partners, including the Chamber of Commerce, to figure out how we communicate better with our local businesses. If you go to a restaurant, you'll see a little tabletop that has information about the streetscape. And lastly, we want to make sure that we are communicating with these businesses, not just via email, but in real time. That's something I've done as a member of council.
Your time's expired.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor?
Yeah, we have set aside as a council over $100,000 to provide downtown businesses with revenue to offset their lost income due to the streetscape project. We're in the process of removing parking meters, and we're not going to replace them. Instead, we're going to have free 2-hour parking, which is more business friendly. We've eliminated the business license fee for all businesses in downtown Wheeling that are impacted by the streetscape project. We have B&O tax breaks for some businesses in downtown Wheeling, and we're in the process of building a new parking garage to assist with parking and congestion in downtown Wheeling. But there's always going to be more we can do. And I think it's important that we have a mayor that understands business. Not only do I work at a local business, but I have a master's degree in business, and I've taught business classes to local colleges. So I think I have the background and the experience to continue to lead this city and to help our businesses.
Mr. Carpenter?
Well, I've never had a prestigious job. I don't run a business. What I'm hearing from the current leaders is that we didn't see this coming. And I don't know how you could not. Downtown Wheeling has undergone a deliberate and an unnecessary destruction. It hasn't been going on for a day, a week, a month, or a year. It's been going on, it seems interminable. And I'm running to make Wheeling paved again. But I think Wheeling needs to recognize and be realistic about its real future, and not some pie-in-the-sky dream of some great thing that's coming. It can never be worth what we've already endured. And if you were thinking of moving here or running a business here, all you have to do is get off the road and drive around. You're going to get right back on and go somewhere else.
If I could.
Rebuttal?
I work in our small business district, the largest small business district in the city, and I can't tell you how many phone calls I get from businesses outside of the city of Wheeling who say, because of the streetscape, because of the investment that the city of Wheeling is making, we want to move there. Now, it's incumbent on the city of Wheeling not to let those opportunities pass us by. So I just want to refute the phrase or the belief that we are anti-business because of our streetscape.
Mr. Thomas, your response?
Yeah, I think the small business is the backbone of our community, and we need to make sure that they're involved in the decision-making and the planning process. And not only involved, but we need to listen to their concerns and listen to their needs to make sure that we're doing everything in our power to ensure their prosperity and longevity here in our city. They are what built us, and they were what continue to build us. Anything that we can do to help those in need, especially in this time when they've been hurt by the streetscape project for nearly 4 years, is something that I am very interested in sitting down with the Chamber of Commerce, with RED, with other city officials and state officials to see if there's anything that can be done on top of any abatements or incentives that we've already provided. But certainly we need to support our small businesses.
For question number 3, we'll start with you, Ms. Hinebaugh.
Ms. Hinebaugh, we've seen Weirton get Form Energy. Beach Bottom has Pure Watercraft. What can the mayor do to get an out-of-state company to put down roots in the city of Wheeling?
I believe one of the ways to do that is by offering them incentives. That's obviously what's worked in the past for us. When we're out recruiting for new businesses to come into the area, we need to be looking for a business that will fit it for our city. It needs to be a good fit for starters. But when we go out and recruit, we need to offer incentives like, reducing the B&O tax for a certain period of time. I know we've done some public-private partnerships, offering free land or property that is reduced rents. Those are different ways that we can look at for bringing these in. Our city is ripe. We are just so ready for a change, and we need to find what our niche is now. I believe that a lot of the, sorry, my time is up. I believe a lot of the time period where we were having the manufacturing stuff is past. It's in the past for Wheeling, and we need to look to the future to find out what our niche is now.
Counselor?
Being an attractive city and location for manufacturing, industry, small business is one of the foremost roles and responsibilities of a mayor of any city. But it isn't enough necessarily to just say, we'd love to have business in our city. We need to create incentives, and we create a network of folks who can be introduced to the city of Wheeling. Unfortunately, stigma plays a large role in development and around the state of West Virginia, but particularly in Wheeling. I'm the only candidate on this stage that has a national network and has spoken to national outlets about the opportunities that exist here in Wheeling. And I have brought national experts to do workforce development and urban planning work here to the city of Wheeling. And so incentives as well as additional opportunities to build network with these folks is absolutely key. The last thing I'll say is that building a relationship with our state legislators is absolutely key. They're often the first people to hear about opportunities for development in industry. And so we need to cultivate and foster those relationships.
Vice Mayor?
Yeah, I think one of the main things we have to do is we have to make Wheeling a city where people want to live and a city where people want to do business. And there's a lot of different ways we can do that. But one of the more important things we need to do is to invest in our community. And we've been doing that. We're investing in our infrastructure. We're updating our outdated infrastructure here in the city of Wheeling. We've focused on public safety, new headquarters for our police and fire departments, new incentives to recruit and retain the best and brightest first responders to keep Wheeling safe. Not just to keep Wheeling safe today and tomorrow, but to keep Wheeling safe for a decade and a generation to come. We've taken steps to make Wheeling a place where people want to live and do business, and I think it's working. You can go to the Secretary of State's website and look up how many businesses have been started in the city of Wheeling. 1,000 since 2016. Now, a lot of these are small businesses, maybe one-person businesses, but that's public information. The steps we have taken over the last 8 years are working, and I want to continue to do that for the city of Wheeling.
Mr. Carpenter?
In 1950, Wheeling still had over 50,000 residents. The last census, it had about half that, 27,000. And I'm sure it has fewer today. So to say that we should just keep doing the same thing and we're going to get a different result, I don't see that happening. I believe that what Wheeling has to sell is, whether you're manufacturing, distributing, if you have a product, you can put it on a truck, put it on a river in Wheeling, West Virginia, and you can get it to more than half the population of the United States in a half a day. There's no better location in the country to serve the whole Midwest and East Coast. And I think, as I started to say, collectively with the region, the state, the county, that's what we need. That's where we need to drive our future.
Mr. Thomas?
Well, besides our easy access off Interstate 70 and the view that you get of Wheeling coming off I-70 and our beautiful waterfront, which I think could be a great recreational hub, I want to harken back to the $80 million cancer center that's going to be built here in our city and invested in our city. That's something that I want to tout to outside investors and businesses. It's something that we have to have all hands on deck and prepare for. The area chamber, the RED, our county commission, the city government. If we fail to prepare, then we need to prepare to fail.
Mr. McGruder?
You've already heard me talk a lot about leadership and team building. Economic development, that is the core thing you need to do. Number one, yes, we have a great regional development, economic development partnership here in town. We need to make sure we're working closely with them. They have a number of tools at their disposal. We need to work with the state and the legislature, but also the state economic development department. We mentioned earlier the example of foam and some of the people up in Weirton. Those calls from corporations like that typically don't come directly to the city. They wind up going into the state or bigger agencies. So we've got to have these relationships. And that's what I've spent my career doing. And that's what I think you can solve a lot of problems, not just economic development, but when you bring all the groups together, the county commission, the chamber, and others, and we talk about these specific problems, many of those organizations already have tools in place. It's just that we need to make it a focus, work together. So I think leadership and team building solves many, many problems.
For question 4, we'll start with you, Counselor.
Counselor Ketchum, in a one-on-one interview, West Virginia Transportation Secretary Jimmy Riston told me, quote, as far as vehicular traffic, its time has probably passed when speaking of the suspension bridge. What would you like to see with that suspension bridge moving forward?
So currently, I represent the City of Wheeling on the Overta Board, which is our public transit authority. So I'm very, very familiar with public transit and our transportation infrastructure here in the City of Wheeling. We have one of the most historic bridges, not just in the state of West Virginia, but in the nation. And my foremost belief is that we need to protect this bridge. Now, that also means that we need to give the folks on Wheeling Island additional opportunities to get off and onto the island. For the past 4 years, folks have been utilizing the Fort Henry Bridge with little issue. And so I think at this point, if the recommendation of the state of West Virginia is that the bridge remains closed to vehicular traffic, I think we take that into consideration. But as a mayor, I want to make sure that we've exhausted every single effort to ensure that that bridge remains open for pedestrians and or vehicular traffic.
Vice Mayor?
Yeah, I think we have a wonderful asset with the suspension bridge, and if it's not going to reopen to traffic, I think we have to figure out ways that we can maximize that asset for the community. Can the Symphony perform on the suspension bridge one night? Can the Bridge Bar serve dinner there one night? At Christmas time or on the 4th of July, can we set up booths where businesses can sell products and sell goods on the suspension bridge? I think we need to figure out a way that we can put that suspension bridge back into productive use, even if it's not going to be traveling by car from downtown to Wheeling Island.
Mr. Carpenter?
I think the Wheeling Suspension Bridge is a great historical icon. It was built in the state of Virginia. And I am sorry, if you were at the last debate, we were asked where a new bridge should be. And the answer to that is so obvious after reflection. Where the steel bridge stood between the heart of downtown to the center of Wheeling Island, everything is there except the bridge. If we can't drive on the suspension bridge, we need to convince the state to help us put a bridge across the river to the center of Wheeling Island so that people in Wheeling have access and people on Wheeling Island have access to drive their cars back and forth. It's a shame not to be able to use the suspension bridge for vehicular traffic, but if that's what it takes to preserve it and keep it there, then that's what we have to do, but we need to find a way around that.
Mr. Thomas?
Yeah, I obviously think we should protect and preserve the bridge, but before I have any discussions with anybody over what we should do in place of the bridge or what we should do with the bridge now that it doesn't have vehicular traffic, I would like to have conversations about exactly what it takes to get vehicular traffic, what we need to do, what can we do, who can we talk to, what stones can we turn over. I think we need to exhaust every option to get vehicular traffic back on that bridge, not only for the residents of the island, but this is our iconic landmark. So I would want to have all of those conversations way before we decide what else we could possibly do with that bridge.
Mr. McGruder.
The bridge is a tough issue, and I'd love to see local traffic be allowed to go on the bridge too. But I think it's a foregone conclusion now that the state's not going to allow that because structurally the way that bridge was built 150 years ago can't support today's vehicles. So having said that, you know, the people in St. Louis think they have that big arch. They think they have the gateway to the west. It's really right here. It's a suspension bridge. That's how the west was opened up. But the people on the island are frustrated. It could affect property values. We talked about economic development. Do we all know how much the casino's worth to us, whether we frequent it or not? They have concerns about Trevian getting on and off the island. You know, we had the Super 6. We don't have it right now. But how do we get the Super 6 back when we talk about that bridge? I think we need to think about other accesses. It takes 20, 30 years to build bridges. We need to begin that thinking.
Ms. Hinebaugh?
I think Mr. Thalman and I are like-minded on this a little bit. I believe that if the bridge ultimately is not able to be used for traffic, then we need to find a way to repurpose it. Maybe even try to do like a trolley system or something to take people across, biking and walking, of course, and repurposing by, finding out what we can do on that bridge. Like Mr. Thalman said, just try to have a symphony thing on there. Try to do, have meals on there. I think that would be great. I am on the Island Community Board. I'm a board member, and some of the things that they have talked about is a secondary route on or off of the island. That is going to be key. Not just focusing on whether or not the bridge can be used for vehicular traffic still. Right now they're saying no, that it's not going to be. So I think we need to start looking to the future, and we need to start trying to find ways to give the island that extra access, whether that means through state or legislators.
Your time has expired. For the next question, we'll start with you, Vice Mayor.
Vice Mayor Thalman, the homeless situation has been in the spotlight in Wheeling for years. This afternoon, the city sent out a press release saying homeless camp cleanups cost just under $90,000 over the last 7 months. What needs to be done for a more permanent solution to helping or housing these folks?
Yeah, the reality is we need the federal government to step up and to come up with some sort of a solution to help the municipalities all over the country. Because cities, large and small, just aren't equipped to deal with the homeless situation. But back in October, City Council took a vote. It was a 5-2 vote to ban unregulated camping on public property. And I stand by that vote. I happen to believe that people should not be allowed to camp anywhere, at any time, for any reason, without permission and without rules. But in addition to banning unregulated camping on public property, we also gave the city manager the authority to allow for a managed camp. And that managed camp is going to be a controlled camp that has rules, that has guidelines, that supervise where the homeless can live. And the result of this ban is that for the first time in years, this summer, you can walk on Heritage Trail and not encounter homeless camps. We've made public safety a priority. We've looked out for the citizens of the city of Wheeling while also trying to be compassionate to our homeless population.
Mr. Carpenter?
Homelessness is a serious problem in this country. It's worse in some places than it is in Wheeling. It's mostly due, from what I read, to a lack of affordable housing. However, this great decision that the city passed 5-2 in October was so cruel and callous and totally lacking in compassion. And when they decided they were going to remove the homeless encampment, they chose practically the coldest day of the year to do it. I think that in dealing with homelessness, it's a reality as part of it. No mayor can solve it. But I think all of us should be treated by our city with compassion, respect, and granted our dignity.
Mr. Thomas?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, this is a situation that needs to be dealt with by having public safety as our #1 priority for our residents and our business owners alike and our property. And I don't feel that's been done over the past 4 years. And certainly, I disagree with the fact that we can't help this situation. People are doing it all over the country. The blueprints are out there. We need to look at those who are having the successes. We have too many angels and saints in this city with our nonprofit organizations and volunteers who are begging to help. Too many for me to believe that we can't make a difference and get our homeless population on the road to recovery and on the road to housing. Those who want the help. We need to focus our efforts there, and then we can make them on the pathway to having housing and becoming members of our society again. And those who don't want the help can get to the back of the line. And
Mr. McGruder?
I support the managed camp concept. I think it's a transitional piece. I've said before, #1, safety and security of all citizens, the unhoused as well as the neighborhood folks, first and foremost. I agree with that. But I see homelessness as a three-pronged problem. Number one, probably the smallest number of people in the homeless camp are the criminal element. Those people are trying to take advantage and hide behind a fraudulent situation to conduct their activities. They need to be dealt with law enforcement quickly and concisely. Number two is probably the biggest group in the homeless group, and that's the addicted and the mentally ill. And we need to advocate with federal and state agencies to find ways to treat those people, to get treatment centers. There's not nearly enough. We need to try to give them help. But there comes a point when, and I agree with JT, there comes a point when you can't put up with that. And then thirdly is the smallest number, the people that really need help. Let's not put them in tents. Let's find a shelter for them, the ones that are really down and out.
Ms. Hinebaugh?
So I believe that the city really should not be as closely involved with handling the homeless situation as what they have. We have so many local organizations who work with the homeless, and I believe that we need to pull those organizations together and try to work cohesively to try to help the situation. Between mental health, addiction, and also those who are literally just down on their luck, who just need some help. We have so many great organizations in our community, and I feel if we all work cohesively together, then we could help to solve this problem. I have been to several meetings for the reentry program, and what they are doing there is amazing. They are trying to find ways to help to solve this problem and to try to help the people who are the most vulnerable. We need to try to keep our community safe and secure for everyone, and that also includes those who are experiencing homelessness.
Counselor?
I currently represent East Wheeling, South Wheeling, Center Wheeling, and Mozart, the neighborhoods most impacted by homelessness in the city of Wheeling. It's easy to talk about homelessness when you don't live in the neighborhood where it exists. Homeless folks live in my backyard, in many of the backyards of the folks who live in my ward. And it's one of the biggest issues and challenges that we're facing as a city. But let me tell you that the city of Wheeling passed a ban without a plan. We needed to ensure that we were working directly with our homeless service providers so that we didn't cause bigger issues resulted as a result of this ban. Three of the issues that have absolutely been caused by this ban, we've put in jeopardy financial support to build potential beds or facilities for homeless folks. We put in jeopardy the legal stance for the city of Wheeling. We experienced a lawsuit that was ultimately dropped. But we need to address this in a comprehensive and wraparound solution that doesn't just involve a ban. I do support the managed camp solution, but we need to lead with humanity.
For the next question, Mr. Carpenter, we'll start with you.
Mr. Carpenter, the community and even the current council has been divided on the future of the homeless liaison. What is your stance?
I think the city needs to work with charitable organizations and people that are willing to help to find a way to treat everyone to grant them their dignity, to treat them with respect, and to treat them with courtesy and sympathy. And that's going to take a lot of people that are willing to help working together.
Mr. Thomas?
Yeah, I think we need to sit down and actually look at how that position is defined and do a performance review and a performance appraisal. I'm not privy to that information at the present moment, but it's something I'd be very interested in doing. I do think that we do need to coordinate our efforts. Something like the city of Houston is doing. It's called The Way Home. They've combined their nonprofits under one big umbrella and are coordinating their efforts that way to find housing first and then are able to make our homeless population members again of our society. So I think we can be able to help, and I think that position does need reviewed and improved, and if we don't think that we can do it, then it needs eliminated.
Mr. McGruder?
Well, I think that position obviously needs to be looked at. At this time, I'm not in favor of renewing a homeless liaison. I think there's a number of social service agencies out there with Catholic Charities and a number of others who have that ability. They know how to deal with that element of our society, and I really think they need to take the lead. When the city takes the lead, it becomes a financial stake, a financial interest. And where do we stop? We have to contribute more. We talk about life hubs. So I think this is truly a social service issue that we need to encourage them to work together and come up with a plan. I, for one, think the city needs to find their way out of the homeless liaison issue.
Ms. Hinebaugh?
I believe that we should not renew the homeless liaison position when it sunsets. The reason being is I don't think the position has accomplished what it was set out to do. It needed to have a more clear, defined job description, and perhaps that would have helped. And I feel like we need to go back and rethink this position. If we need this within the city, then we need to make sure that it is very defined, and make sure that the person who is coming into that position actually knows clearly what they are supposed to do and where to take it. This could have been very good for helping with the homeless community and helping to bring all of the organizations together to work cohesively together. However, I don't believe that that is what has happened so far.
Counselor?
Mayor Elliott and I spearheaded the creation of the Homeless Liaison Program about 2 years ago. And Ms. Hinebaugh is correct. This program and this position will sunset by the end of this year. I actually feel that this position has been quite successful in at least building stronger relationships between us and our homeless service providers, and addressing one of the most serious issues that we face in the city of Wheeling, not having a low barrier shelter. When folks talk about seeing homelessness in their community or on the streets, what they don't see is the lack of resources, particularly in a low barrier shelter. That's something that this position has helped cultivate. That is something I'm excited to see invested in the city of Wheeling, and will ultimately be part of a wraparound approach addressing homelessness in the most serious way. So I do not support necessarily renewing this position, in part because I think it's done what it needed to.
Vice Mayor?
Yeah, at this point in time, I would not support renewing the homeless liaison position. And the job description for the homeless liaison, I believe, is about a page long. It's public. Anyone can look it up. But I believe one of the criteria of that position was to achieve what they call functional zero. And to simplify that, basically what that means is we need enough housing here in the city of Wheeling to house every single person that's homeless. We have that. The problem we have are the homeless don't want to live in the housing that we have, or they don't want to follow the guidelines, whatever they may be. You have to look for a job, you have to be drug tested, you have to be in bed or in your room by a certain time. I don't think the homeless liaison can solve that problem. Ultimately, I'm going to go back to we need a federal solution. We need asylum institutions open back up. But that's a long-term solution. In the short term, I think we need to lean on the local homeless advocate organizations. We need to hold them accountable. Every single year since I've been on city council, the city gives money to these organizations. There needs to be strings attached. If you're going to receive money from the city, you need to help solve the homeless problem.
For question 7, we'll start again with you, Mr. Thomas.
Mr. Thomas, do you believe there is enough affordable housing in Wheeling, and what can be done to increase that number?
No, I don't believe there's enough affordable housing in the city of Wheeling on all levels of affordability. And that is a crisis. Everybody knows the city of Wheeling, we're sort of landlocked. There are small holes in the city where we can put single-family homes, but nowhere where we can really develop housing developments. So we need to collaborate with the commission in this regard. The county has plenty of land available where we can develop housing. And certainly we don't have the property taxes that we'll benefit from. But anytime we have a housing development near our city, our other buckets will be filled. They have to work somewhere. That's the user fee. They have to shop. Sales tax. They have to eat. Sales tax. So certainly our buckets can be full by collaborating with the commission in this regard, and it definitely needs to be addressed. But it's something that I think needs to be addressed through collaboration with Regional Economic Development, our chamber, and our county commission.
Mr. McGruder.
No, we do not have a sufficient amount of affordable housing. If you look around town, I've been knocking on doors, we've been visiting folks. We see a lot of vacant homes and houses. Some of them, number one, are not inhabitable. If they are, the rents are too high for the average folks here. So we need to expand the housing stock. And how do we do with that? Again, we collaborate, we work with different organizations. I have mentioned previously that if we continue tearing down dilapidated structures, improving neighborhoods, we provide building space where people can come in and build new homes. I also would advocate for us to look at expanding the boundaries of our city, and with annexation and investing in infrastructure, water, sewer, and fiber, that we can help to solve that problem.
Bah.
I believe the problem is that the housing that we do have is just not adequate because we have a lot of dilapidated properties. If you look around town, in all of the communities throughout the city, there are so many homes that are just sitting there and rotting. I feel that we need to provide initiatives and try to development or rehabilitate a lot of these properties, and that would help to build our housing stock. Renovation projects, or like I said, even tearing them down and rebuilding in those spaces. Funding for demolition. I know that we have been demolishing a lot of properties throughout the city over the last few years, but there are so many more that are in such disrepair. We need to create some kind of funding to try to help the people who already are struggling to keep up their homes, but also to help to replace the ones that are coming down, to increase our property value, create vibrant communities.
Counselor?
So I think the real phrase is turnkey affordable housing. You can buy a house in the city of Wheeling for $15,000, but if you can't move in, or it's going to cost you $75,000 to $100,000 to make it livable, that's not affordable. And so what we need is a range of housing options that include subsidized affordable housing. We work very well with the Wheeling Housing Authority that has the opportunity to build even more units if they needed. And we also work with private developers who have a range of opportunities there. One of the things that we haven't spoken about is the importance of zoning. The city of Wheeling has attempted to make more flexible our zoning law in order to increase the number of affordable housing units that could exist in our city. That's through accessory dwelling units. And one thing that folks don't know is that it is illegal to build a duplex in the city of Wheeling. It has been since 2001. I don't think that is smart policy. That's not smart zoning policy. And it's not smart when we talk about affordability. And so those are the things that I would address if elected mayor.
Vice Mayor?
Yeah, we need more housing in the city, period. There's no other way to turn around the population decline unless we build more housing. And over the last decade, we have added, as a city, hundreds of new units to the city of Wheeling, downtown Wheeling, South Wheeling. And part of the key here is having relationships with developers and working with developers and looking at housing from a business standpoint and making sure the taxpayers are getting a good return on investment when we partner with these developers. We've also experienced a lot of demolition over the years in the city of Wheeling. In our traditional neighborhoods, the more urban neighborhoods, North Wheeling, South Wheeling, Center Wheeling, East Wheeling, these areas, lots that have once had a house that has been demolished, that's now an empty lot. It looks like a missing tooth. That is a perfect spot to build new housing. We already have the infrastructure there. We have the roads. We have the sidewalks. We have the water and sewer lines. One of the problems with annexing neighborhoods and expanding the boundaries is we also increase our liabilities. We have new water lines, sewer lines, and roads that we have to maintain.
Mr. Carpenter?
There's certainly not enough affordable housing in our community. I believe that for that to happen, for us to increase our housing inventory, it has to make economic sense because businesses don't operate as charity. The main thing I think the city can do to help, and Ms. Ketchum touched on part of it, is zoning. I talked to a fellow today that would love to put an apartment above a garage he owns, but the city won't let him. And I think we should stop discouraging people that want to try something or do something. And I think we should give more freedom and cooperation and support to those people that are willing to build housing.
For question 8, we'll start with you, Mr. McGruder.
Mr. McGruder, a lot of work has been done to improve the downtown area. How would you promote neighborhood development if elected mayor?
The way I would do that is, I've said before, I've described the word wheeling contains a key element, wheel, W-H-E-E-L. And for a wheel to be solid, you have to have a hub. The hub is downtown. But for a wheel to be efficient and very solid, you have to have very taut spokes. And those spokes are our neighborhoods, Elm Grove, Warwood, Wheeling Island, South Wheeling, Edgewood. And so what we have to do, we can't just look at downtown. We have to use a holistic approach and make sure that we're investing and giving incentives in the various neighborhoods, that we're working on the neighborhoods, because when that happens, the entire wheel is going to be much stronger.
Ms. Hinebaugh?
I believe that we need to foster a sense of community engagement among our residents. I think that's the key place to start. I've been going to a lot of the Crime Watch meetings and the community meetings throughout the city, and they are barely even attended. I know there's a couple that I went to where literally I was the only person there. Nobody from the community came to the meetings. So I believe that once we get the community involved and more engaged, come out to the meetings and let your council members and mayor know what you are wanting for your communities. That way we can concentrate on how we want to build up that community. Having a sense of belonging into your space, into Warwood, Elm Grove, Pleasanton, Clater, all of these areas, feeling a sense of that community and that engagement among each other. I think that's where we need to start, and then we can build from that.
Counselor?
These past 4 years as a member of council, I have learned that my best resource, my single best resource as an elected official is my neighborhood. I live in South Wheeling, and we have one of the most active community groups in the city of Wheeling. I'm looking at Ken Sexton here in the audience. Ken Sexton, Ginger Kabbalah, Brother John. These are the folks doing the work in our communities writ large, and we need to, as elected officials, support them. A couple of the ways that we've done that include beautification grants, encouraging neighborhoods to apply for specific funds in order to complete projects in their community, and then also invite them to boards, commissions, and committees. You'd be surprised how many vacancies that we have in the city of Wheeling. You can get into leadership and help form policy by just being a community member without having to run for office and be one of us. And so I think that's what I do more often than not, is encourage community members to get involved.
Vice Mayor?
Yeah, our neighborhoods are important. That's where people spend the majority of their time. That's where they raise their families. And we need to continue to make our neighborhoods places where people want to live. We need to continue to pave streets and alleys. I've said this before, but in the last 8 years, we have paved more streets and alleys than were paved in the previous 20 years combined. We need to keep doing that. We need to keep investing in our recreation facilities. Over the last 8 years, we've invested in just about every single park and playground in the city. Most of them are in residential neighborhoods. There's about 30 of them. We need to continue to invest in dog parks and splash pads, things that give our neighborhoods life and provide families with things to do. We need to continue to come up with programs like the Homeowner Assistance Program, the Victorian Home Program. These are programs that help build back our neighborhoods, invest in the neighborhoods, and keep families here and keep people here.
Please, rebuttal.
Yeah, we've made a lot of progress in certain areas over the last couple of years, but I think that the credit and the thank you goes to you, the American taxpayer, because those funds were provided to us in $30 million in COVID relief and ARPA funds. So I want to make sure that those who are paying for those investments are thanked appropriately. So thank you.
Mr. Carpenter, your response.
I'm just going to say that I'm not promising all the answers or that I can solve all the problems. I think the leadership we have can either. And I think it's time that we take a fresh look and a new direction and employ common sense and be practical for the people of Wheeling.
Mr. Thomas, you get a chance to ask this question.
Sure. I think there's a lot of ways that we can improve our neighborhoods. Connectivity between the neighborhoods is a great idea, where we can have young families that are able to recreate and find the green spaces. I also think that crosswalks, where we can cross our streets a little safer, can be a huge improvement. Something else that I believe, and I've said before, is that I grew up in a city where everybody took pride in our city, but not just our city, our individual neighborhoods. You know, when you were from South Wheeling, you were a South Wheeling Indian. And when you were from Warwood, you were a Warwood Redbird. And so I think that if we can, I have a lot of ideas that can help return that pride to our individual neighborhoods, and that trickles up to our city.
Rebuttal.
I want to make a comment about the COVID relief funds. It is true that Wheeling received money from the federal government, part of the American Rescue Plan. But so did every other municipality in the country, including here in Ohio County. I believe every town and city received money from the American Rescue Plan. Clearview, Valley Grove, West Liberty, Triadelphia, Bethlehem. The reality is the money we've invested in our neighborhoods didn't come from the American Rescue Plan. That investment started back in 2016. Most of the American Rescue Plan funds went to water and sewer, which hasn't even happened yet, and we gave it away to
your time's expired.
Buildings like this.
Okay, candidates, we're down to all out of time here, almost just about. No more rebuttals. They've all expired at this point. We have enough time for you to give a 50-second answer to this final question. Timer, 50 seconds. And we'll start with Ms. Hinebaugh.
Ms. Hinebaugh, do you believe that the city could use an economic development director?
Yes, I do. I believe that would actually be really good for the community. As far as the council and the mayor are concerned, we are one vote. Having somebody who can come in to help to development, whose expertise is going out and recruiting businesses and bringing them into communities, I feel would absolutely be a benefit for our city. Trying to making sure that we have the funding for that position. We need to make sure that we can afford that. However, with doing away with one of the positions of like the liaison position, that could open up some space for this.
Councillor?
Yes, I think that we do need this position. We have this position. The Community Development Office at the City of Wheeling is charged with community and economic development. Nancy Prager holds that position, and I think she does a quite spectacular job. Do I think that we need to expand and to beef up this department? Absolutely. I think that if she could have a staff of 2 or 3 additional folks working on economic development, retaining small businesses and recruiting small businesses in manufacturing, that would be an incredible and really set the city up for its next chapter. So yes, I do believe we need that position. We have it, and I'd love to see that office expanded.
Vice Mayor?
Yeah, as Councilwoman Ketchum said, we have that position. We actually have an economic development department. And economic development is important. And I think it's something we can always do better. A lot of people don't realize that the business districts actually subsidize the residential neighborhoods. The residential neighborhoods pay property taxes, most of which go to Ohio County schools and to Ohio County. The amount of property taxes the city of Wheeling receives from a residential district is not enough to maintain that street. So the business districts provide our neighborhoods with a place with all the amenities that we have. Over the last several years, we've seen increases in sales tax, property tax, and B&O taxes here in the city of Wheeling. Not because we increased those taxes, not just because of inflation, but because commerce is actually up here in the city of Wheeling. We need to keep doing what we're doing, keep focusing on economic development.
Mr. Carpenter?
I think everyone in the community and the city of Wheeling needs to work together and cooperate to promote the true strengths of Wheeling, which are number one, its location and access to transportation.
And Mr. Thomas?
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in improvement, always trying to improve on what you have done and not rest on your laurels. So certainly, I think we need to sit down with the economic development groups like Regional Economic Development and the area Chamber of Commerce to make sure that we're doing everything we can to promote business and economic development in our city. We need to review and improve always.
Mr. McGruder, you're the final answer.
I want to agree with Councilor Ketchum. I do think we have an effective economic department. It's just well understaffed. We need to add a few people. We need people that's able to connect the dots with the Regional Economic Development Authority, connect the dots with the Ohio County Commission, with the West Virginia State Development Authority, and somebody who can monitor that daily and not drop the ball, so that when an opportunity comes up, we put on the full court press.
And we've reached the end of the question and answer session. We're going to step aside for a quick break. When we come back, we'll hear the candidates and their closing statements.
Wheeling needs a mayor we can rely on. Denny McGruder will create an economic growth environment, attract new business. McGruder will champion local businesses, commit to public safety, and enhance public services. Vote Denny McGruder, Wheeling Mayor.
My employees are my greatest asset. I want to make sure that they have the health coverage they need, which is why I joined the Wheeling Chamber. My membership gives me access to group rate coverage through the health plan. The rates are based on my company's demographics. I can get the best group rate and a plan that meets our specific needs. Join the Wheeling Chamber today and take advantage of group rates. There's savings in numbers.
Chad Thalman is pro-business and is the only candidate for Wheeling Mayor with both private and public sector business experience. As Vice President of Warwood Armature and as Vice Mayor, he's gotten results. Under his watch, Wheeling has seen historic growth, with over $500 million in investments taking place. And he's not just talk, personally invested in Wheeling's comeback as a developer of several downtown properties. Chad Thalman for mayor. He means business.
Judge Ron Wilson likes to start his days early.
He's the first one in, last one to leave.
He takes the rule of law seriously.
Judge Wilson has a great reverence for the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of West Virginia.
Judge Wilson is the model of what a judge should be and does what is necessary to keep our children safe.
Judge Wilson is one of the best judges I've ever been before, and he loves West Virginia, is dedicated to our state, and we need to have him back.
Re-elect Judge Ron Wilson.
My employees are my greatest asset. I want to make sure that they have the health coverage they need, which is why I joined the Wheeling Chamber. My membership gives me access to group rate coverage through the health plan. The rates are based on my company's demographics. I can get the best group rate and a plan that meets our specific needs. Join the Wheeling Chamber today and take advantage of group rates. There's savings in numbers.
Wheeling needs a mayor we can rely on. Denny McGruder will create an economic growth environment, attract new business. McGruder will champion local businesses, commit to public safety, and enhance public services. Vote Denny McGruder, Wheeling Mayor.
Welcome back to the White Palace at Wheeling Park for this Wheeling Area Chamber of Commerce sponsored mayoral forum. For the past hour, you've heard the candidates address topics and answer questions put to them by Jamie Baker. They've agreed on some, disagreed on others. There's been some things for you to think about. Now, they've made their cases. It's time to close a deal. They have their closing statements. Earlier, the campaigns drew cards to determine the order in which they deliver their closing statements. Mr. Carpenter, we start off with you.
First of all, I want to thank the audience for being so patient and kind and courteous. I don't consider myself a politician, but my wife does call me Wendy. And thank you for your patience. What I want to say is that if I'm elected mayor of Wheeling, I won't look at you and say, what else can we get out of them? I want the city of Wheeling to serve the people and not the other way around. I pledge to you that I will not be a part of going to Charleston to lobby the legislature to allow the city to impose an extra tax on your income. I think the city ought to go out of its way to be an easygoing place to live and to do business. And one example I give, which sticks in my craw, is the parking on Stone Boulevard. If you're coming down Stone Boulevard, it used to be parked solid with cars, people that worked in Wheeling and walked to work. Now, there's no one parks there because there are signs saying you have to buy a permit from the city. You can never do enough for them, and I don't like that attitude or that approach, just as I'm opposed to charging you $2 a week for the privilege of having a job in a small town so that they can afford a big city police station. And of all the candidates, I'm the one that takes a different view and a different direction. And if you agree with me, I'm the clear choice. And thank you again.
Mr. Thomas.
Yeah, thank you. Listen, there's 6 candidates in this race. It's going to be very, very important that we get out and vote. The vote's going to be split, so it's very, very important that we get out and vote. I, for one, know who I'm going to vote for. But no, it's very important also that we know what we're voting for. In the city of Wheeling, we have a manager-council form of city government. So the city manager runs the city and runs the day-to-day operations of the city. As mayor, we preside over council, the 6 other members that you've elected to represent you. We also will appoint some people to some boards and some committees. But the most important job of this mayor's role is to be an ambassador for the city, a champion for the city, someone who recruits and retains our population, somebody who will recruit and retain our businesses, and someone who will make sure that we're not investing money, our tax-paying dollars, unwisely and with a little bit more risk than I would like to see. I mean, we have a $16 million parking garage that over the next 20 years, we're going to pay $24 million for, and then have $8 million left. So it's going to turn into $30 million on a promise of a 150-unit apartment building at Wheeling Pitt that really, as of this morning, hasn't seen any progress. I analyze risk for a living. That's what I do. I take our clients and I dive deep into their business, making sure their assets and their resources are well protected and they're not taking unnecessary risks. And that's what I want to do for you. So on May 14th, I just humbly ask that you vote J.T. Thomas. Thank you.
Counselor?
In 2020, the Wheeling voters sent me to City Council with a mandate: focus on the issues that matter. And those issues include infrastructure, economic development, small business, homelessness, housing, youth retention, population retention, all of the issues which I have focused on diligently these past 4 years. I'm the only candidate, one of only 2 candidates on this stage with governing experience, and the only candidate who have represented the city of Wheeling on a national level. This city is one of the greatest cities anywhere in the United States, and we have an opportunity to meet the moment here. The folks in this room would not be here if they didn't believe in the future of this city, but the future of this city is very delicate and requires focused and proven leadership with a track record to boot. I represent that as a member of City Council, and I'm so excited to support the levies as well, which I want folks to make sure they understand. We have a school levy, a bus levy, as well as a library levy on the ballot this year. You'll be voting for your mayor, your member of council, and I hope that you support these levies too, as well as me, Rosemary, for mayor.
Mr. McGruder.
I just want to say thanks to the audience here, the audience on the public medias, for all your interests, concerns, passions, and dreams about making Wheeling a better place. Inclusive, safe, clean, prosperous, and really the shining city on the hill. That's all of our dreams. I would then like to thank the other 5 people on this podium. There's some tremendous ideas. These are good people. They've invested a lot of time and effort, and I only hope that after May 14, we can join hands and hearts to make this a better city. I would say to you that I've never considered myself ever a politician. Never dreamt that one day I might run for mayor. Always have been a cheerleader for Wheeling. Have had a chance on a national level to work with professional associations to brag about our town, to sell our city to many others. And then one day I woke up and said, you know what, I can do more. And that more was to put my name on the ballot to run for mayor so that hopefully I could take some of my energies and make it a better place. I have the time, I have the passion, I believe I have the experience. I'm not going to get into all of the things that I've formally mentioned, all the things that I've done, but I would love to have the chance to be your chief leader, cheerleader, and to get to work with you all. So come May 14, please remember me. Thank you.
Ms. Hinebaugh.
Wheeling is poised and ready for change. And if you are ready for change, then I am your candidate for that. I am ready to be your servant leader and step up, roll up my sleeves, and get to work. We need to work together. We need to create a partnership to get our city to where we would like it to be. I want to be your advocate, and I want to be your partner. Throughout my job as owning a child care center, I have advocated strongly for our child care. I have gone to the state level and to the national level to try to help bring affordable child care to our citizens. And through all of that, I have made a lot of connections at the state and federal level, which I feel will definitely benefit and help with me being your next mayor. If you are ready to join me, make the investment, be a partner, and me be your advocate, then I am ready to step up and be the woman to lead Wheeling into the next generation, the next century, and create a place for our children to grow and to want to stay and to raise their families, for our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren to still want to be here and to be a part of our community and to keep it thriving for many, many generations to come.
Vice Mayor, you've got the final statement.
Yeah, I am the only person running for mayor that served 2 terms on Wheeling City Council. I am the only person running for mayor who has the experience serving as the vice mayor, which I've done for the last 8 years. I am the only person running for mayor who's been endorsed by some of the members of the current Wheeling City Council, including our current mayor. These are the people that know better than anybody what it takes to continue to move this city forward and what it takes to be mayor. I am the only person running for mayor who has received numerous endorsements from local labor unions. As a businessman, I understand the importance of investing in our physical infrastructure, but also the importance of investing in our community, in our local economy, and in our people. I'm the only person running for mayor that has a track record of delivering results for all of you over the last 8 years. We're on the right path. Good things are happening. I don't think it's wise to change horses midstream. So I ask for your support and your vote on May 14th so together we can continue Wheeling's comeback. Thank you.
And there you have it. All 6 candidates have laid it on the line and presented their case to be the next mayor. They've given you a lot to think about. This concludes tonight's mayoral forum. We'd like to thank the candidates for their participation. Candidates, good luck in your campaigns. Thank you to the White Palace at Wheeling Park for hosting us. Thank you to the Wheeling Area Chamber of Commerce for sponsoring this event. And a big thanks to Jamie Baker for those great questions that made the candidates think on their feet, and perhaps put them under the thumb a little bit. Now, a word of advice. What you heard tonight is completely meaningless unless you vote. So make certain you take a friend, a family member, a neighbor, a coworker, even a stranger. Go to the polls and vote for the candidate of your choice. Make certain you watch WTOV 9 News for coverage of this mayoral forum and all the day's breaking news. Also, go to our Facebook page at facebook.com/WTOV9 and tell us who you think won tonight's mayoral forum. In closing, we'd like to salute our military, law enforcement, firefighters, EMTs, and other emergency service personnel for their service to our communities and our nation. I'm Mark Hyman. Good night.